At a little bit of practice with functions. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different problems. Okay, so the first one says write a function that prints dough on the screen. Call the function print dough. Okay, so naturally. So I've already created the function here, and I've already called it here. So you don't need to worry about anything else. Your only job is to complete the function. Okay, so the instructions for this are very, very simple. It says a function that prints dough. So print dough, exclamation point, and then I can run it. Okay, so you'll see dough on the screen, which is what we wanted. Okay, so I'm going to terminate that. Now, that was the first one. In this case, notice there's nothing between the parentheses, so we are sending no value at all. And notice inside the function, we're not returning a value, we're just printing. Okay, so we're just following the instructions as written. Okay, number 2, write a function that will print you are tall if a person is tall. If the person is not tall, print you are not tall. You must ask the user his or her height outside of the function. Call the function print height result. Now, I've already done that. I've already defined it, so print height result. We're going to be sending a value, which is the height. Pass is just a placeholder. This is so the program doesn't have an error. There's no code yet. So here I've created a variable called height. I'm going to make it an int, and we're going to input from the keyboard. Now, if you're on Python 2.7, this would be raw _ input. So then I call the function with this height variable. So the problem is, if a person is tall, print you are tall. So we're going to need an if statement. So we're looking at the height. So you need to decide what height you think is tall and what's the boundary. I'm going to say 170 centimeters because I'm 175. So I want to make sure I get you are tall. So if that's the case, print you are tall. And now there's two choices. Either you're tall or you're not. So here I can use else, print, so you are not tall. So let's run that and test it. Okay, EOL because I have an extra quotation mark. Oops. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, how tall are you? I am 175. You are tall. Fantastic. I can also try it again. I should test both possible cases. So let's say if I was 152, for example, say you are not tall. So it looks like our code is working. So now in this case, what we're doing is we are sending a value to the function. So here I'm asking for a number, and I'm converting it to an int. So here I call the function. So in the first case, height was 175. So I send that up to here. Height is now 175. So is 175 greater than or equal to 170? Yes, you are tall. One thing to keep in mind, this will come up later probably, this height does not have to match this height. Okay, what happens inside of a function kind of stays inside that function. So I can make that h, and it's still going to work. So I'm going to run that just to show you. So 175, oops, and you are tall. So everything is working as expected. Now, next one. Write a function that will determine the winner of a Janken round. For those of you not in Japan, Janken is what we in America and I guess the rest of the Western world call rock, paper, and scissors. So for example, if the user chooses R and the computer chooses S, print the user wins. If it's a tie, print tie. Okay, and obviously if the computer wins, print the computer wins. So this one's a bit longer. So notice I've already got the testing code here. So rock, 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 paper, rock, scissors, paper, rock, etc., and the outcomes. Okay, so we've got user choice and computer choice. So the first thing I'm going to do is ties. So if user choice equals computer choice, print tie. Okay, so if the user chooses rock and the computer chooses rock, it's a tie. User chooses paper, Computer chooses paper, it's a tie. S and S is a tie. So let's test that. Okay, we'll have to get past this every time. Okay, so you can see tie, tie, tie. Okay, because there were 3 ties. And notice, if we have R and P, code doesn't do anything because we haven't programmed that yet. Okay, so next, I'm going to do elif. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use multiple checks here. So let's do the user wins. So if user choice equals, what we got here, R, and computer choice equals S, okay, we can say, well, let's just do it this way, S, then we say print, what we got here, user wins. Okay, elif, so user, actually I'm just going to copy that because I like to save time. So there's 3 cases, oops, where the user wins. Let's do those. So if user choice equals R, or if user choice equals P, paper beats rock. So rock, paper, and scissors beats paper. Okay. And basically, if it's not a tie. If it's the 3 user choice wins, I go else print. Oops. I'm going to say computer wins. Now I could combine this into one statement, say, put this if user choice equals R and computer choice equals S, or user choice equals so on and so forth. But this fits better on the screen. So let's run that. Okay, let's get past that. Okay, so you can see there now we've got tie, tie, computer wins, user wins, tie, computer wins, user wins, tie. So I think things are working as expected. Okay. Now notice, in this case, we're sending 2 values. And because it's in quotes, we can see that they're strings. So I'm comparing here to strings. So you just got to keep the value types the same. Make sure you're comparing like to like. And again, I look at, there's a tie possibility, user wins, there's 3 ways. And then if it's not those, then it is a computer win. Now we could have added code in case they didn't send R or P or S, they sent Q by accident. But for this, purposes of this demonstration, we're going to assume they're going to send the right thing, okay? Because that could be checked in a different part of the program. Okay. Now our code's going to get a little bit more complicated. Now we are sending a value and returning a value. So looking at the question, write a function that checks if a string is all uppercase. Okay, so we're making our own uppercase function. I know Python has one built in, but we are practicing coding here, so we're going to see what we can do. Sorry about the background noise if you can hear that. So if the string is uppercase, return true. Okay, so if you're new at this, true is a type of value called a Boolean. So it is a protected keyword. It is a capital T, R, U, and E. We don't put it in quotes. We don't put it in anything else. It's not a string. It's its own data type. Also with return, same thing. False is a special type. Okay. So we've called the function, oops, I'm going to put that is upper. I'm going to redo that part. And instead of using camel casing. So if it is upper, if you see is, what you're going to assume is that you're going to be returning true or false. Okay, this is a kind of a programming convention. Okay. So I'm sending a string, and if it is uppercase, I'm going to return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay, so I have a couple of test statements here. So Simba's with all capitals. So if that is uppercase, it will print Simba's is uppercase. If not, it will print is not uppercase. And the same thing with Simba's with lowercase letters. Okay, so I'm sending the string. So when I run it the first time, string is Simba's with all capitals. So what I want to do is if the string, 2 equal signs, string.upper, return true. Now there's only 2 possibilities, true or false. So I don't need to check if it's not capital. I'm going to go else, return false. That's it. Okay? So basically what I'm doing is I'm comparing the string to the string changed to uppercase. So I'm going to run that. Okay, and get past that again. Okay, so we see Simba's is uppercase, which is correct. And then we see here Simba's with lowercase letters is not uppercase. So based on that evidence, I would say that my function is working correctly. Okay, so again, we're sending a value. I'm sending up Simba's, capital S-Y-M-B-A-S, and I'm returning true. So if true, print Simba's is uppercase. Otherwise, print Simba's is not uppercase. Now in this case, we have lowercase letters. So Simba's with lowercase does not equal Simba's all uppercase. So it's going to return false. So false, it goes to the else statement. Okay, and the final one is a bit more complicated, but similar. We are sending a value. Okay, it says, write a function that checks if a string is a palindrome. A palindrome is a word that is the same word backwards and forwards. So if it is, return true. If not, return false. Okay, so what we need to do here is, conceptually, we need to compare the string to its reversed self. So we have to create the reverse string. So reverse string. So when we start out, we don't know what the reverse string is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a for loop here. Now I know that I could use a slice, but again, I'm using this to teach my students, and I want them to learn how to use a for loop properly. So I'm going to go. So what I want to do is I want to start at the last letter and reverse the string. So I'm going to go backwards. So for index in range, length of string minus 1. I'll explain this in a second. -1. Okay. Reverse string plus equals string index. So what this will do, okay, if you haven't seen this structure before, I'll walk through it real quickly. So index in range, so the length of the string. So in the case of sassafras, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 letters. So 10 minus 1 is 9. Because string indices start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I want to start at 9, and I want to go this way. So this -1 here means to go this way. Now the way that the range function works is that it's not inclusive. So if I want to get to 0, I actually have to go 1 past, which is -1. So that's why this -1 is here. It never actually gets to -1. It actually stops at 0. So then I have my reverse string. So I'm adding each letter. So sassafras 9 is S, sassafras 8 is S, sassafras 7, 6, 5, etc., 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 till we get to the end. And that will create a reverse string. So then all I have to do now is if string equals reverse string, return true, else return false. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, sassafras is not a palindrome, but race car is a palindrome. So you can see that, at least so far, it looks like it is working, at least with our test data. Now, something to think about is, when you're doing this type of thing, what if the user sends you something with a capital in it? So if I run that, I'm going to get both are not a palindrome, because capital sassafras is different to lowercase sassafras. So what you can do in this case, couple different things, is you could just say at the beginning, string equals string.lower or string.upper, doesn't really matter. So that'll just convert that to a lowercase, all lowercase. So then it won't matter what we do down here. And one last one. And you can see now it is working as expected. Okay, so that is that. A couple things to remember. Sometimes you are sending a value, sometimes you are returning a value, sometimes you're not. So you need to think about what exactly you need the function to do. Okay, so in this case, it said to print. Didn't say anything about returning. Same thing here. We're printing. We're not returning. And then from here, we're still still printing. Okay. And then down here, it actually says return true or return false. Okay, so we could use this function if we needed it in another program, for example. Okay, but as I mentioned, Python does have a built-in function to do this, method to do it, whichever we prefer. But this is for practice and to learn functions and review if statements. Okay, that's that.